Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Salmeen Ansari and I welcome you back to another fantastic episode of Contourcast Podcast for Life Season 3. The guest that I have with me today, वो वैसे बहुत ताबेदार औलाद थी, लेकिन जब उनके वालिद साहब ने कहा कि लॉ की तरफ मत जाना, उन्होंने 2 मिनट के लिए तो सोचा, सब्र किया, लेकिन फिर कहा नहीं मुझे लॉ ही पढ़ना है. She is the second female legal counsel at Contour Software and it's a pleasure to have her with us today. I welcome to the hot seat Shabano Masood. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the hot seat.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for such a nice introduction. I'm very excited to be a part of this episode.
I'm so glad that you're here, Shabano. तो वाकई में आपने उस दिन कहा I was an obedient child, हम पढ़ाई पे भी ध्यान देते थे और घर में भी rules और discipline था and you looked up to your father a lot also. लेकिन अब्बा के कहने के बावजूद आपने कहा नहीं law ही करना है. So what's the backstory?
Backstory is that he was a lawyer himself and he didn't have a very good experience. So he switched his job to a government job.
Okay.
And while growing up, I did my A-levels. तो उसके अंदर मेरा था law मैंने just by the way वैसे ले लिया along with business. I thought I would do business, but I took law and it was like, oh, this is interesting, law और morality और सारा हमने वो सारा देखा. उसके बाद like when closer to when we had to choose, you know, which major to select for our bachelors, उसके अंदर I was thinking कि मैं bachelor's लूँ या law लूँ and you know I just ended up selecting law. और उसके अंदर भी मज़े की बात ये है कि I selected law but you know my dad was like अच्छा चलो ठीक है law करना है but do it from the university I did which is Punjab University.
अच्छा.
So he was like no you need to do it from there and I was like I don't want to do it from there because वहाँ की degree 5 years थी मेरी वाली जो थी वो 3 years की थी.
अच्छा.
So what I did was कि he was not at all, he was adamant कि नहीं करना वहाँ से.
अच्छा.
So what I did was I wrote him a letter and I was like, you know, I want to do this and these are the reasons
Sweet.
why. Yeah. And then, you know, and उसके बाद later on when he came and he went to the office later on came in, then he told my mom कि let her do whatever she wants to do.
Okay.
And you know the good thing, not good thing, but the memorable thing for me is that, you know, he passed away like about 12 years ago and he still carried that letter with him wherever he went. So it was like a sweet memory for me.
It's very sweet and thank you for sharing that very intimate moment. Also, I'm sure he's very proud of you, Shabano. And not कि आपने नाफरमानी में कुछ किया था, but I think you indirectly had his gene only because you spoke the other day about कि मुझे एक ऐसा काम करना है जो कि, you know, I have to be very disciplined about it. I have to be very fair to it, which you said your father was also very fair to his line of work. So if you're comfortable talking about it, you said आपके father ने switch किया from law to government की job और वो आसान नहीं होती है because there's a lot of people pleasing that's expected there. So what is it that he told you and what is it that you picked up from him?
I think it was about honesty and integrity. That's one thing of foremost what I learned from him. Like it wasn't something he actively told me कि नहीं यही करना है, you know, you have to be like a good person, you have to be an honest person. No, that's not what he said. But through his actions, through just the general way of life and how we lived at home, that's what I learned. Like I've never cheated. इस तरह की सारी चीज़ें I haven't been doing that since, you know, since grade school. So मैंने कभी भी वो नहीं किया. So that's something that was taught to me by my father and my mother both. So that's something like I think I still carry it and it's a good quality to have in a person.
Shabana, आपने बहुत अच्छी एक बात की कि there are a lot of things that don't have to specifically be said in words, but when somebody applies them in their own life and that person is somebody you look up to, so it becomes easier to adopt. और जहाँ आप कह रही हैं कि honesty, you were always, you know, very particular because you saw it in your parents. And that honesty converts into integrity in personal and professional space. और आपका काम ही ऐसा है where privacy, confidentiality and integrity is of utmost importance. So tell us a little of whatever little you can tell because it's fairly confidential about your line of work at Contour.
So what I can tell you is that I do a thing called M&A, which is called mergers and acquisitions.
Right.
So that's primarily the role of a general counsel, जो हमारा legal department है in Bella.
Okay.
उसके अंदर there are so many other things since we're part of the head office. There's like 6 units or groups within us, or uske andar bhi there are like hundreds of different companies under us. So uske andar we get a lot of different kind of work. So it can be like an opinion, it can be like contract drafting, it can be like a deal, working on an acquisition deal from anywhere part of the world, because Vela is one of the companies jiske andar we acquire like globally. तो हम ऑस्ट्रेलिया में भी हैं, हम साउथ अफ्रीका में भी हैं, हम वियतनाम में भी हैं, हम अमेरिका में भी है, यूरोप में भी है. So it's like a pretty global thing. So that's what I do. I can't really explain it because not that it's confidential, because it's so many small different things that one would expect from a corporate counsel. That's what I do generally.
Absolutely. Okay. And then now you have a small team, but that's now how it started. Here, initially, you joined as a legal counsel. Now you've come into a role where you are managing people. And you very candidly told me कि ये तो एक different ही ball game होती है जब आपको manage करना पड़ता है. So what was it like prior to managing, and what learnings have you acquired post managing people?
So before they were brought to my team, my colleagues, before that, I was doing a lot of work independently, and my boss does not micromanage at all. So I had a lot of power in doing and independence in doing whatever I want to do. She didn't micromanage. वो नहीं होता था, अच्छा ये छोटी सी चीज़ है, let's get her approval and then send it off. No, that's not how she operated. And I've been a part of Vela for 4 years, above 4 years. ठीक है, तो उसके अंदर I've grown. They've given me more responsibilities, and because of that, maybe like a natural growth. They thought since our team in Vela, the legal department is also expanding. Like when I joined, I was the 3rd or 4th hire, और अब हमारी कोई like near 15 to 20 log hain. So in a matter of like only 4 years, they've expanded so much, and it's not that common for a legal department because people don't think कि legal resources इतने ज़्यादा होनी चाहिए. तो उसके अंदर the team was expanding, and then last year my boss was like, we want to hire more people in Contour who will work with you. And I said, fine. I thought I'll get more colleagues. I'll divide the work. That's good enough. But then she was like, I want you to manage them. And they're like, do I want to manage them? Because what I do is not really managing, and I just work. So I thought, maybe I shouldn't do it. But then I also had like an internal conversation with myself. I think that it's good for me if I do it, because it's managing, it's, teaching them what to do, and they'll also get to grow as well. So uske andar, I thought, let's just do it. Let's see how it happens. And uske andar mujhe to positivity mili. Ek to main unko bata rahi thi, like initially my workload was a lot, and I got to like manage it evenly with them. And also I got to learn what it is like to be a manager. और उसकी जो expectations होती है ना, like I also learned a lot of things that, Vanessa, my boss, was expecting from me, or she wanted me to do. And because of that, I started doing things a bit differently as well.
Right.
So I think uske andar se bhi like, I only see advantages now that it's been like more than a year since I've been part of the team. So mujhe lagta hai wo overall, I think it's a good thing. Especially for me, ke they were part of the team, and it's good overall.
It's good overall because growth doesn't come easy, and change initially khatakta hi hai. But the good thing is that you were open-minded and you gave it a fair opportunity. And in terms of professional trajectory, it is going to, take you higher and higher, and you'll acquire more skills that are required to grow in this career. Acha, ये तो बात हो गई अबाउट योर टीम ग्रोइंग एंड ऑल्सो अबाउट मैनेजमेंट. आपने उससे पहले जिक्र किया कि बिकॉज यू लुक एट लीगल काउंसिल इन डिफरेंट कंट्रीज अराउंड द वर्ल्ड. तो ये प्रोफेशनली तो डिफरेंट कंट्रीज़ को आप मैनेज करती हैं, बट ख़ुद भी आपको घूमने फिरने का शौक़ है. यू आर क्वाइट अ ट्रैवल बफ, एंड यू पर्टिकुलरली मैंशनड वन प्लेस that you mentioned. Several you did, but one of the wonders of the world also. So is traveling something which is common in your family? Is it very personal to you? When did you start?
It's not that common in my family.
Achha.
Growing up, we traveled, but we traveled domestically a lot. Okay?
Achha.
As I was growing up, I had a fascination with seeing, the world outside of Pakistan, because I had never been. I went once with a school trip to Turkey. Uske baad se, when I was able to like afford it myself, that's when I started to travel basically. Uske andar, like there's so many places like you mentioned, like Petra, the city, it's one of the wonders of the world. very, very good place. Uske andar, if you ask me like if what's my favorite place, it's so difficult because any person who's traveled, like there's so many advantages and disadvantages of visiting a place. But the highlights, I would say. So for example, like I've done parasailing in Turkey. I've done hot air balloon. I visited the Museum Louvre in Paris, and then Anne Frank House. I went there in Amsterdam, yeah, and I went to the Mango Museum, Rijksmuseum. So, इस तरह के सारे, like I've been to all of these places. I do appreciate like anything new that I get to see, and the beaches like all over the world. They're so nice and cathartic in a way.
It's very interesting because generally when people travel, everybody has their own mindset of what it is that they want to see. But you are specifically mentioning historical locations, also things which are historically significant, and then in terms of history and in terms of learning from literature, like places like museums or art, which also gives me an insight to the kind of person you are. कि बड़े गौर से चीज़ों को देखती हैं और समझती हैं. Is that true? Are you the kind of person who is very observant?
I am observant,
Okay.
but not observant in the sense that if I'm going to a museum, I would know the history of that
Achha,
museum.
okay.
Like, I am not that person. Abhi tak, like
Okay.
I do like to see, for example, art, but abhi mera wo level nahi hua, I would say, of being that. But generally, as a trait, yes, I do have that trait. I am an observant person by nature.
अच्छा, as you said, जब बचपन में इतना travel internationally नहीं किया लेकिन locally किया, तो locally is there a destination, not because of the destination but because of that experience that became such a good memory कि आप अभी भी सोचती हैं तो कहती हैं वो वाला ट्रिप बचपन में बहुत मज़ेदार था?
Yes, we went to Kashmir.
Okay.
We went as a family, my dad and then his brothers. We went as a family, and I think that was the last trip I took with my father as well. And not only because of that, but I think because it was one of the more recent ones that I planned. So I do have a lot of memories of being in that trip, and it was generally Kashmir a good place to visit ki thi.
They say now it's like Switzerland of Pakistan, yeah, heaven on earth. It's got very, very scenic views.
Yes, very, very beautiful. Like Pakistan in general, the northern areas are so beautiful. Like you can't really compare them with any other country in the world. But Kashmir in itself, like I haven't had the chance of going to Hunza, abhi tak, or any other, Chitral वगैरह इस तरह की मैं जगहों पे नहीं गई हूँ. But northern areas like so beautiful, like of Pakistan.
Actually, you grew up with friends and cousins both.
Yeah.
And you said that was, the highlight of the childhood was playing with cousins and friends and, making the best of the kind of energy that you used to have when you were younger. So you're one of 3 siblings?
Yes, 3 siblings, yes.
Okay. And you are in the middle?
I am the youngest.
Achha.
3 siblings. I had a 4th brother, but he passed away like when I was quite young. Yeah, so 4 siblings, but 3 sisters right now.
And several cousins? Yeah, few cousins. Yeah. Several cousins.
A lot of cousins.
A lot of cousins.
Yeah.
So no outsider needed as such. जब कोई अपने घर की get together होनी है, there's enough to do just amongst yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was growing up, cousins हम सारे होते थे ना, we were involved. Age was similar and we used to get along really well as well. So hamare like sleepovers, whatever was happening, it was very Eid sari celebrations, they were done like in family as opposed to friends or family. So hamare wo zyada family oriented tha, I would say.
अच्छा, friends से ज़्यादा आप कह रही हैं कि cousins में था, लेकिन you also mentioned the other day that you, the friends that you have and the friend circle that you have, you've come a long way. Some of them खास तौर पे since quite a while, and they're your friends even up to now. And you said something which stayed with me that day. Okay, they help hone who you are. They help form who you are. So are these friends that you found along the way or at a younger age? And what do you mean by they help form who you are?
So my friends, like the closest friends I have, they've been with me since school. Mm-hmm. And we have grown together because everybody says as you're growing older, your personality is changing and, constantly. So a lot of people drift apart for XYZ reasons. But our friendship with like a few of them, like it's very strong to this date. They're one of my closest, like a group of friends. And I did make other friends as well along the way, but those are like, I think the closest group of friends that I have.
Do you guys influence each other just on a personal level, or professionally also do you exchange notes or learnings from each other?
So half of them are not in what I do. They're not lawyers,
Okay.
but the ones that are, yes, we are close professionally as well, because I think that's also important to have like a good connection professionally as well. And if they're friends, and that's the perfect thing. Like I think I mentioned it to you as well. Like one of my friends, she recommended this job to me. So yeah, like that's how I came to know. Like if I didn't know her and if we weren't close, like I wouldn't be sitting here
today, and we're so glad that you are.
Yeah.
This professional journey so far of 4 years, इससे पहले भी आपने experience acquire किया था, is that correct?
Yes. So the story is like when I graduated, हमारा अभी तक result नहीं आया था. Result नहीं आया था, तो उसके अंदर what happened is कि I was very eager. I was like, bachelor's degree is done. Let's start applying for jobs. I started sending my resumes, और मैंने एक जगह पे भेजा, and they called me for an interview. Interview उन्होंने call किया, and then they were like, we were discussing things, and I don't know like if they liked me or not, and I was like on the fence, and then we were discussing expected grades कि क्या आएंगे. So I just threw in this dialogue that I heard from one of the series that I was watching, like they say grade A students become great professors, and then grade B students become great judges, and grade C student, they become partners. And they started yeah. It was one of the, I did, because I wanted to say that because I didn't know what my result was going to be. Alhamdulillah, it was good, but I was like, I let them know it might not be great, and that's okay. But it alhamdulillah worked out, and that's the place I was before I came here. So I've only worked at 2 places. So
Okay.
the one where I interviewed was where I stayed.
And then this was private practice. Okay. So I know it's a very cliche question, but how different is it when you are in a private practice and then when you're working as a legal counsel in a not just a corporate, but such a magnanimous corporate organization?
The difference I would say in terms of so there's so many different things, but उसके अंदर एक चीज मैं कहूँगी कि it's how people are professionally in Pakistan and abroad. It's not bad per se, it's just different. It's like different set of rules over here, and if you're working here and then if you work somewhere else abroad professionally, it's a change. You have to transition into what you're doing, and that in itself, like, it takes some time. So uske andar, what I was doing here was kind of similar to what I am doing right now, but much different, because Pakistani market is a bit different. They focus on different things. तो उसके अंदर से वो थोड़े से differences आ जाते हैं, I would say.
And you are now primarily engaged with international law, correct? So wo bhi ek different understanding of rules and laws and regulations, that's a journey by itself.
Yeah. It is definitely, because local laws are so different in Pakistan versus international laws. And then even in international law, I wouldn't say like I'm an expert in an international law, because uske andar bhi there are so many different jurisdictions in the world. So you can't really have like a good answer, but it is definitely different, and it keeps you interested. The job doesn't get boring at all.
Shabanu, you were meant to be in this field of work. But just for a second, imagine an alternate career and an alternate life. Is there a line of work जो कि देखने में ही बेशक आपको बहुत fascinate करता है? ऐसा कोई career है?
I mean, if one has to dream, there can be so many, right? But since I love to read, so maybe an author.
Interesting.
I don't think I would be good, but since I read so many books, but it does, like, I do like the idea of being an author.
Interesting. Yeah. And is there a particular genre of books that you enjoy, or are you open to all?
I like all kinds of books. Like, it can be non-fiction, it can be fiction, anything, like fantasy. Like, if the title and the cover page is interesting, and uski backstory jo likhi hoti hai piche, excerpt, if that's interesting, then I'm sold.
You're sold. And what was the last book that you not only read, but you actually said, I could do this again?
So for me, like when I read books, it's not about I'll read it again. It's about I keep on thinking about it, right? So uske andar, I just finished this book called Tuesdays with Morrie, and it's a very nice book. It's an autobiography kind of, but not really written by that person. And also connected with that is When Breath Becomes Air. Ye dono kind of in the non-fiction category, but they're very good. Like they keep you thinking. Like even when I read the When Breath Becomes Air last year, and I know the epilogue of sari cheez, I just from time to time I keep on thinking about it, because it's not a very large book. Like choti si hai, but it's well written, and it makes you pause and think about what was written, and the life lessons uske andar jo hain. Very good.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Achha, in terms of thinking, us din you and I were speaking, and it wasn't really part of the getting to know each other conversation, but I think एक और ही tangent पे चला गया था. Purpose की बात कर रहे थे उस दिन, हम ikigai की बात कर रहे थे, and you said कि बहुत rare होता है कि लोगों को अपना purpose समझ आ जाए. And we both share the perspective that things do align at some point or the other. So do you feel where you are in your life, although there's so many more years to go and so many more things to do, but do you feel that you are starting to understand your purpose of life? Because in terms of work, you have clarity. In terms of who you are, your friends, your family, you are quite a grounded person. Do you think that you're figuring out your purpose?
It's I think purpose for life and then purpose for work, they're kind of, for me, they're different. And purpose for life, I think I'll keep on figuring it out till the end of time, I would say. But purpose of work, like what I'm doing, I think a lot good can also be done by being a lawyer. So I do think being a lawyer for me is good. Different aspects of law, I want to keep on trying. I think for me, work-wise, yes, I might have found my purpose. For me, like it's a good fit.
It is,
in my opinion, yeah.
Okay, it is a good fit. Not just in your opinion, your organization is also extremely pleased with what you are doing and how you are managing things. And that living proof is you being here today, because you are the kind of person who should be celebrated. And we're very glad to have you here today. And also very glad because इनिशियली कभी किसी से मुलाकात होती है, आपको कुछ बातें पता चलती हैं, स्पॉन्टेनियसली ऑन सेट और भी बातें पता चल रही हैं मुझे, सो दैट्स मेकिंग मी इवन हैप्पियर. अच्छा शाबानो, एक चीज़ आपने उस दिन कही कि नॉट इवन फॉर $1 million वुड यू कुक ऑल डे, लेकिन आपको खाने का बहुत शौक है, यू आर अ फूडी. सो व्हाट cuisines does Shabano enjoy?
I like desi food a lot.
Okay.
Desi, I like Thai food too.
Acha.
And a bit of Japanese as well now. So, but I do generally eat all kinds of food.
ठीक है.
But these are my favorite ones.
And do you prefer to dine in and order in, or do you enjoy going out?
I do both. So when it's with family, I would prefer, even with friends, I would like to go out and try new places, because in Lahore, हर कोई नई चीज़ एक हर हफ्ते कुछ खुल रहा होता है, बंद हो रहा होता है. So yeah, there's lots of places to try in Lahore.
ओके वंडरफुल. अच्छा, कॉन्टूर में बहुत सारी ऐसी चीज़ें हैं जो कि होती रहती हैं जो लोगों को इंगेज करती हैं, लेकिन इट डिपेंड्स पर्सन टू पर्सन. सम पीपल फाइंड द एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर एक्टिविटीज़ एंड इवेंट्स फैसिनेटिंग, अदर्स ओनली अप्रिशिएट देम फ्रॉम अफार. यू सेड अ मिक्स ऑफ बोथ. यू सेड हाँ अच्छी बात है, मैं अपनी टीम को इनकरेज करती हूँ और ख़ुद मैं कहती हूँ हाँ चलो इट्स ओके. सो are you the kind of person, because the nature of your work is such, तो इस वजह से, या is it because as a person you've never been the kind of person जो बहुत ज़्यादा extra curriculars में participate करता है, even though it's a good thing कि company में होती हैं?
Actually, it was the opposite for me when I was growing up. Throughout my school years and even in my bachelor's, I was doing extracurricular. Maybe that's why I burnt out. But I've been doing debates. I was one of the main characters in my annual play in college. I've done sports, netball, volleyball. I think in competitions, like I've done it all.
Okay.
And for me now, maybe that's why it's lost its charm. But for me, I'm not much of a spectator. I'm more of a participant.
Achha.
So maybe like if I'm participating in anything, I would be more involved. But if I'm not, then I'll be cheering them from afar, not in person, yeah.
ओके, सो इस तरह करते हैं कि या तो नेक्स्ट CSL में क्रिकेट में या फुटबॉल कंपटीशन में आपका नाम लिखवा देते हैं, बिकॉज आई मीन आई डू अंडरस्टैंड दो दैट यू नो देयर आर फेजेस ऑफ वंस लाइफ, कुछ चीज़ें पहले ज़्यादा चार्मिंग लगती हैं, बाद में अदरवाइज, एंड I think that's important to understand also that an organization will have multifarious things. Some people will opt for some and some people will not. है अच्छी बात है, नहीं है तो एक work environment safe, secure, healthy or considerate ho, so I think it helps one, you know, move on. So would you also agree to that, that a safe and secure environment at Contour has helped you proceed, you know, with this commitment ke haan, this is an organization that I would like to continue giving my work to and my energy to?
Definitely, I would say that Contour in itself, with the number of years that I've been here, I've only seen positive things over here. Like, koi meri request hoti thi, if not immediately, but after a while it was fulfilled. So they've always, like, they take notes and they take these things into consideration, not only professionally, but just to make sure that you're comfortable in the environment and they accommodate you. So they've done that. And also my team in Canada, like my legal team, they're good. They're accommodating. They understand. We don't have like strict rules. Us tarah ke. So both places are like very good for me. Like, it's a positive. It's not a toxic environment at all. It's so that works for me, because nobody blossoms in like a toxic work environment. That's not good for anyone.
And it's good to hear that, you know, you feel comfortable enough to be able to put your if concerns any forward, and then people will accommodate, because it then just helps you, you know, converge and focus and divert that energy towards the work. But at the back of your mind kuch na kuch chal raha hota hai कि, you know, अच्छा ये चीज़ bother कर रही है, how will I figure it out?
Absolutely. Work politics, like, if you get into them, like, that will be another job altogether, I would say. So it's like the kind of work that I do within my team as well, and all across, there are no work politics. So we're not involved in uske andar koi time nahi zaya hota. So, and I think it's very good for us too, because for me, it's such a bad way of like creating a bad environment for everyone. Like, it's a useless thing for me. Like, a lot of energy is wasted on things that you should not be wasting your energy on. Like, that's not how you should work.
Okay, wonderful. Acha, as now a person who has several years of experience as a professional in a particular field, when anyone starts, you know, their career, तो certain assumptions भी होती हैं कि अच्छा मैं इस तरह करूँगी तो ये ऐसे हो जाएगा. Clarity आती है वक्त के साथ साथ ही, when you actually hands on into, you know, the environment or the career that you have opted for. So what is one thing that you have learned along the way that almost consistently, if not throughout, has helped you grow and become a better and more sound professional?
I think you should help yourself. If you think you have a problem, realize it yourself. Like, you should know you have that problem. Take a work on it, and if needed, ask for help from others.
Okay.
Other people might not realize you're having that problem, right? So you need to voice that concern. It will be heard, and if it's not heard, you'll have an answer then too, that you're not working with like the right people then. So I think that you should take care of yourself first. I think that, and you should realize if something is working out for you or if it's not. And if it's not, move on to the other thing. I think that's something that has helped me. I've learned from it as well. Being stuck like in a place that I should not have been, like, that's why I made the switch, right? So you should learn to realize कि आपकी कुछ जगह हैं जहाँ पे आपको नहीं होना चाहिए, you know, just move on from there. That's my lesson.
एक जनरलाइजेशन होती है कि जो यंगेस्ट होता है फैमिली में, सिबलिंग्स में, वो या स्पॉइल्ड बहुत होता है या वो घर का छोटू होता है कि सारे काम उससे कराए जाते हैं. और ये जनरलाइजेशंस ही हैं, हर घर की कहानी सेपरेट होती है. तो आपको क्या लगता है?
Yeah, definitely. I'm the latter. I was the errand girl. अरे कोई मुझे they used to like send me on different errands. Like, मैं हर वक्त काम ही कर रही होती थी घर के. So I'm not the spoiled one. It's the other way around. Like, I used to spoil others because I was working for them, because, you know, I'm the youngest.
अच्छा, तो घंटी बजी तो आप ही जाके देखो और, you know, पानी ला दो और पंखा बंद कर दो.
By default.
अच्छा, by default.
Yeah.
Interesting. What kind of dynamic do you have with your siblings?
We're very close. There's not that big of an age gap between us as well.
Okay.
So, like, the one in the middle, I like there's only 2 years ka difference between us. So uske andar bhi it's not bad. Like we're very close, and even with my older sister, like I think they're like one of the closest people that I'm comfortable with, including my mother as well. Like all of us, like we gel well, alhamdulillah, because kuch log ke problems hote hai, but they've always heard my concerns. I've always heard theirs, and we interact well. Also, that we have like a good understanding, or koi masle वगैरह इस तरह के alhamdulillah नहीं है.
ओके फैंटास्टिक. अगले 3 साल में नहीं कोई इंसान सोचता है कि नेसेसरली ये हो पाएगा, लेकिन there's no harm in dreaming. तो अगले 3 साल में कौन सी ऐसी चीज़ है पर्सनल बकेट लिस्ट पे जो आप ज़रूर करना चाहेंगी?
I want to learn a new language.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't decided which language. But, I think it's a good skill set to have. Alhamdulillah, like I just want to keep on traveling, because that's something I keep on want to doing. Jab tak you have the means to do it,
Yeah.
and the opportunity. So yeah, that's something I'm excited about. And
Okay.
obviously like a good gradual growth in your career. And,
Right.
These are the things that, in the next 3 years, if I were to like think about it, that these are the things that are
come
in
to
my
your
mind. Yeah.
mind. Okay. अच्छा कोई particular language?
I'm debating like kaun si leni chahiye, but maybe Mandarin. I'm not sure.
Nice.
Yeah, but because it's like I think one of the most spoken
in the
languages
world,
in the world. So it's useful.
अच्छा ज़बरदस्त. अच्छा अगर आपको कोई सवाल किसी भी और प्रोफेशनल से पूछना हो हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म के ज़रिए, सो फॉर
Professional.
एग्जाम्पल
Professional.
नॉट प्रोफेशनल कॉलीग से, बट नॉट प्रोफेशनल नेचर का सवाल, पर्सनल नेचर का या जेनेरिक नेचर का कोई सवाल हो, जस्ट अ रैंडम वाइल्ड फनी क्वेश्चन दैट यू वांट टू आस्क अनदर कॉलीग, मे बी लेट्स से द नेक्स्ट कॉलीग जिनका नेक्स्ट शूट होगा, यू डोंट नो हु इट्स गोइंग टू बी एंड दे डोंट नो कि आपकी तरफ से सवाल आ रहा है. सो व्हाट्स अ फन क्वेश्चन दैट यूड लाइक टू थ्रो देयर वे?
It would be like, what do you think is your toxic trait that you wish that you didn't have?
Ooh, interesting.
Everybody has one.
Yeah, I think recognize करने की बात होती है कि what is my red flag?
Yeah.
अच्छा, very interesting. जाते जाते शाबानो, because it's a wonderful conversation that we've had so far, but we do need to wrap up. जाते जाते आप professionals को in general, and then girls, young aspiring girls who want to do things but probably don't have utni clarity. What's one piece of advice that you would like to give them?
I think if you know what you have to do, just do it despite all the odds. If you have to like believe in yourself first, right? It's लगता बंदे को ऐसा है कि वो easier said that done, or this is something that everybody says, but if you actually look into the semantics, or actually look into what it means, it means is that you have to do, because other people might not understand where you're coming from, including or even family. Okay? You need to be your biggest supporter, and you need to decide what you need to do for yourself. I think that's my message for everyone. Okay? You just decide, don't rely on others. Like apni jo cheez hai, just stand by what you believe in.
Shabano, thank you for that, and thank you so much for being with us today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Till next time, this is me, Salmeen Ansari, saying thank you and Allah Hafiz.